The reason most footballers never achieve their physical training goals isn't because they don't work hard. It's because they work hard in the wrong places, which means you may see progress, but it's not going to be in the area you want, and it definitely won't transfer to the pitch. Recently, hundreds of footballers submitted their workouts to me to be roasted on this channel, and after reviewing them, I kept seeing the same mistakes again and again. Mistakes that meant they'd never be powerful on the pitch. So today, I'm going to roast 3 footballers who applied, who are prime examples of this. I'm going to break down exactly what they're doing wrong, and then I'm going to show you how to fix these mistakes so you can actually get the progress you want. Let's move on to the first footballer. Here we have Vakes Workout. His goal was to get more powerful using this gym workout. I've gone ahead and put it into Team Builder here so that you can see the workout. We're starting with a standing vertical jump, then going into a dumbbell Bulgarian split squat, then using a dumbbell single leg RDL, followed by a dumbbell goblet lateral squat, then moving on to a machine with the machine calf raise, Nordics, and finishing with leg extensions. Some things that I like about this workout, I like the unilateral emphasis. So we've got the single leg Bulgarian split squat, we've got the single leg RDL, we've got the lateral squat. We're getting a lot of good unilateral work in, which is going to be great for training different muscle groups through different ranges of motion that you may miss if you only did bilateral movements. Another thing I like for the most part is the exercise order. So we're starting with the faster movements at the start, then going into the more compound-based movements, and then finishing with the isolation movements. This exercise order is going to maximize output from this workout. So if Vaker was to do this workout for the next, say, 4 weeks, he should see some pretty good progress in his power. But what we're going to do is we're going to copy this workout and we're going to make a few small changes to it to make it even more effective and get Vaker more powerful in the next 4 weeks. Let's go ahead and copy this workout into the next day. So now we can make some changes to it to make it even better than it was before. So we'll change this to after. First thing that I want to think about here is if you're trying to get powerful, you're going to want some true plyometric variations in your workout. And this is because the most effective way to increase your power when using jumps is actually the landing and loading part of that plyometric. So this is also known as the eccentric and amortization phase of the plyometric. But if we're just doing a standing vertical jump, then we're going to be missing out on a lot of that phase. So a change that I'd like to make here is making sure that this first jump here is a true plyometric variation, or that at least we have some type of true plyometric variation within the workout. So assuming that we're going to be using a box or a bench for the Bulgarian split squat afterwards anyway, let's go ahead and change this to a depth drop variation. So we'll go for a depth drop here, and we'll keep the sets and reps the same. We had 5, so change that to 5. And now instead of the standing vertical jump, then we're getting a little bit more emphasis on all of the phases of the plyometric. So we'll delete that one for now. So I don't want to mess around with this workout too much because maybe there's some lack of equipment and that's why we've got a lot of dumbbell variations. But something to consider would be potentially switching one of these to a barbell variation. And essentially that's just going to let you load a little bit heavier. So perhaps we'll do that for this dumbbell variation. We'll go ahead and change this to a barbell variation. And essentially this is just going to help for loading this movement a little bit heavier, which can be great for making more progress overall. Another thing to think about here would be potentially adding some more plyometric variations at the start of the workout, as these plyos are going to take a little bit less time compared to your strength-based movements. That's another option there, but for the sake of keeping it as similar as we can, we're going to leave that for now. One change I would make here is probably moving the Nordics to before the machine calf raise. For me and for a lot of athletes, it's going to require a lot more psychological focus and effort doing the Nordics than it is going to be doing the machine calf raise. So that's the reason for that swap there. But overall, this is a pretty solid workout. So the main takeaway from this one here is just making sure that we have some type of true plyometric variation within this workout. We're going to move on to the next athlete here, but if you're finding this valuable so far and you want the opportunity to have your workout reviewed next time, then make sure you go and get the free guide in the description below. And not only will you get access to your free football performance training guide, but you'll also be added to my email list and you'll have the opportunity to apply for this analysis next time. So time for the second athlete here. This one is a field-based workout. So Sebastian said to me that he wanted this workout to be relatively short, relatively low volume, because he has his team training later in the day. So he wants to make progress in his speed and agility, but he wants to remain fresh for that training in the evening. So let's take a look at this one and see what changes we can make to maximize output. For formatting it here, just for the sake of simplicity, I've kept these all as 32-yard dash, just adding a little bit more of a description in the section below. So he's starting off with 3 sets of 20 to 30 meter sprints from kneeling, then followed by 3 sets of 20 to 30 meter sprints as a reactive variation. Then we've got a triple broad jump in there with a goal to improve vertical jump. And then finally we have 20 to 30 meter sprints with changes of direction before he finishes up with his technique work. What I like about this workout at the moment is we have a great distance of sprints, so 20 to 30 meters is going to be enough time to hit top speed, but it's not going to be too long to the point where we're creating fatigue for those next sprints. So that's something that's great about this. I also like the different variations of starts, some reactive, some from kneeling, to try and get different stimulus. Because at the end of the day, on the pitch, you're not always going to be accelerating from one specific position. That position is going to vary based on the situation. Doing different starts from different positions is a great way to not only train different positions for the pitch, but also to emphasize different technique points within your session for those sprints. One thing that's a little bit random about the session is just throwing the broad jump in between those speed and agility stuff. So I'm going to look to move that around just to make the workout flow a little bit better. And then we're going to look at how we can get more out of this session with potentially less volume. One final thing that we're going to look at is if we want to improve speed and agility with a relatively low volume workout, then something that's going to be great to start this workout with will be some work on sprint mechanics. And this is going to be a great way to improve top speed by improving form, but also to warm up for this session with really minimal fatigue that's going to carry on over to that evening session. So I'm going to start off by adding a few variations of some sprint mechanics stuff. So we'll keep it nice and basic. We'll go for some A skips to start the workout, which is going to focus a little bit more on that acceleration phase. Then we'll look at some switches. So we'll potentially go for some triple switches. And then we'll move that into some dribbles, which is a great way to just work on top speed with relatively low intensity, but still get that movement pattern down. By adding that to the start of the workout here, then now we got a nice way to improve top speed with minimal fatigue. From there, this 32-yard dash is great. And we could maybe add a set here and then just do a variation of different positions to start from. That way we've still got the volume we need to improve top speed, but we've not got so much volume that we're going to be fatigued for later in the day for that workout. So then we can delete that other section there. I'm going to bring this up, which is going to be our agility work. But one thing I'd change with this is if we're looking to improve agility and change of direction, we probably don't need such large distances to do it in. A lot of this will be more focused on that transition into top speed sprinting. When training agility with my footballers, I'll typically work in slightly smaller spaces. So maybe we're working within 5 to 10 meters instead of 20 to 30 meters. And this will let us get a lot more changes of direction whilst minimizing fatigue for later in the day. Instead of the 32-yard dash, I'm going to use the 6-cone agility drill. And this essentially gives you a load of different variations of change of direction and agility drills that you can do. Way out there, G. So we've got that agility in there, and then we're just going to say choose a variety of movements. And we can also make those reactive as well. So the ones that you've seen me do here are just change of direction work, but you could also go ahead and, if you're working with someone else for this session, you'd label each of these cones and then potentially work from different start positions based on the call. So potentially you'd say 1, 4, 6, and you have to find the most efficient movement pattern to move between those cones. Maybe you start from a push-up position, a half kneeling position, and you can see how you can just get a nice variety of different movements whilst keeping the distances small so that we're getting loads of changes of direction, lots of different positions and angles, but we're not creating unnecessary fatigue that we're going to carry on to that session later in the day. I like the triple broad jump, so we'll finish with that at the end of this workout here. Even though the goal is to improve vertical jump and you're working horizontally here, there's still going to be a lot of carryover just in terms of force production. If you want to get really specific with improving vertical jump, then maybe we could work with some repeated vertical jumps, repeated tuck jumps instead of the triple broad jump, but I like the triple broad jump, and potentially we just focus on more height through the jump rather than purely distance. Then we can get rid of that and we can finish with this technique work. And this technique work here was really nice, starting with reps of 1v1s, then going into touch and finish work, and then finishing with some free kicks. I think that order of exercises there is also perfect. This is the final workout here, so we can change that there. And I think that's a nice way that we're going to get a little bit more out of this session whilst almost reducing the fatigue from the session that we had originally. Let's get into the final workout here. We have Vakes workout. I couldn't have got any easier names to say here, so sorry if I'm butchering the names, but hopefully the workouts are good. This is the workout we've got here. Honestly, this is a great workout. I'm pretty sure it's adapted or come straight from one of the ones that I've posted before. Maybe I'm almost reviewing my own workout here, but we're gonna go through it, and it's nice to zoom out and give a little bit of a different perspective of how we could make this even better. Starting with the band assisted pogos, then going into the standing vertical jump, then a power clean followed by a back squat, a superset of RDLs and lateral lunges, and then finishing with some injury reduction work with the Copenhagen side plank and the isometric split squat. Again, what I like about this workout is we're starting with our fastest movements first. So starting with the plyometrics, then going into the power work, followed by the strength work, and then the injury reduction exercises to finish. We've also got a nice balance of movements in different planes. So we got some vertical work, we got some lateral work. We're targeting specific problem areas for footballers with the Copenhagen side plank for the groins and the isometric split squat for the knees. Overall, this is a really well balanced workout, but with a couple of changes, then potentially we can make it even better and help Vitaus, who's looking to improve just his overall athletic performance. So speed, power, strength, and reduce injuries. So let's copy this over to the next day. I realized I forgot to do that for the last one, but hopefully it doesn't affect you guys too much. We'll label this after. Band assisted pogos are fine, but realistically adding the band is making very minimal difference to this exercise. So honestly, I would save the time and effort associated with just setting up this band and just go for a standard pogo variation. I'd potentially add a few more reps as well, maybe at the start of this workout, assuming that we're doing it an extensive way as we're starting the workout with it. But we'd also add some variation by changing it to, say, an alternating pogos. So potentially we'll go for that. We'll go alternating split squat pogos, and we'll go 3 sets of 20 reps, so 10 with each foot in each direction, and we start the workout with that. With the time we've saved there, then potentially we can add a plyometric in the frontal plane. Maybe we'll do that, and we can add some skater jumps. So we'll add a skater jump in here. We'll go 3 sets of 2 reps each side. There we go. We've added a plyometric in the frontal plane just by saving ourselves the time associated with setting up that band. So let's bring that up. And similar to what we'd said for the first workout as well, the standing vertical jump's great. And especially if you're doing it in a really intensive way, you can turn it into a true plyometric variation. I'll show you on the screen here, but you can see by extending up and then dropping down, I'm able to add the stretch shortening cycle to this jump, as opposed to if my feet didn't leave the ground for the start of this movement. That's an option here, but again, maybe we just change it to a true plyometric variation. So instead of a standing vertical jump, we go for a running vertical jump instead. We'll add that in. I keep forgetting the sets and reps every time I try and copy these over. We have 4 sets of 3. Now we've got 3 sets of 3, so that's fine. Minimal difference there. I love the power clean. Great exercise. If you can't do power cleans, then other considerations that you could sub for this instead could be a weighted jump variation, maybe sled pushes, maybe granny throws. All good options, but I really don't think that anything really compares to those Olympic lift variations. Again, I like the back squat, so we'll keep that in there. the barbell RDL. From here, because we've already done the power clean, the movement of the RDL, we have that hip hinge in the power clean. Obviously not to the same extent. It is a slight more push with the legs rather than a hinge for the power clean. But if we want to target the hamstrings as a footballer, and we already have some type of hinge variation here, maybe we go for a seated leg curl instead. That's going to train the hamstrings with the hips in a flexed position, which is the position that most hamstring injuries occur when sprinting. So if we can strengthen the hamstrings there, that's going to be a nice way to train the hamstrings still, just a little bit more variety within this. So I'm going to add those in there and also just increase the reps a little bit, got to 12 reps there. So we can get rid of the RDL. I'm going to move the lateral lunge back ahead of this. We can superset it if we can, but obviously if there's not the space in the gym to do that, then we can just do those separately. And to finish, I really like the Copenhagen side plank and the isometric split squat. So we could keep those here and just adjust them for the end of the workout. And the potential though could be to change the Copenhagen side plank for, say, Copenhagen dips instead. And that's just going to help train the groins through a different range of motion, add a little bit of movement there. And also for me, just going two isometrics back to back, I personally find a little bit boring. I'm going to change that there to some Copenhagen dips instead. We can do those slow and controlled, so only need 10 reps. But if we use tempo, so we're going 3 seconds down, we're going to hold at the bottom for 1 second, we're going to explode up for 1 second, and then hold at the top for 2 seconds. That's a nice way. You still got a couple of isometric holds in there just for a shorter duration. But we just progress that movement slightly and make it a little bit more exciting. That's all the changes that I would make to this workout here. So what we've done is we've added a true plyometric variation again. We've just made the flow of the workout a little bit easier by removing the band from the pogos, and that's given us the time to go ahead and add another plyometric into the start of the workout. And from there, pretty much kept everything else relatively similar. So again, just a couple of small changes can really improve the workout and improve the outcome. I hope you found this video valuable and you can steal some of the changes that I made to these workouts and implement them into your own workouts. If you want these own workouts of yours reviewed, then make sure you get my free guide so that you're on my mailing list, and you'll be the first to know next time I start filming another one of these videos. But the problem that you still have is that one workout alone isn't enough. Repeating this same workout again and again multiple times a week isn't going to be enough to make long-term progress. You need progressive overload for that workout, but you also need periodization of that workout and a program that uses periodization as well. And that's exactly what you're going to get in the Ultimate Footballer program. And you're not just getting one workout a week, you're getting 6 workouts a week to target your lower body, your upper body, and to also train on the field to improve your speed, power, agility, and fitness. So if you want access to all of that for free for 14 days, then go and hit the link in the description below. But if not, make sure you've subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video.